was given at least 48 hours in advance. On June 13, 2018, notice was mailed to the Courier Post and the Aldea. Notice was also posted on the bulletin board located by the reception desk at the central office and all school building bulletin boards within the district.
Madam President, I call for a roll call. Ms. Atwood. Ms. Rito, Mr. Rito Bueno. Taisha Minier.
Present.
Mr. Muhammad. Mr. Nelson.
Present.
Mrs. Reyes-Morton. Here. And Ms. Wilson. Madam President, you have a quorum. I'm sorry. Ms. Blash. I'm watching your picture. Madam President, at this time, we need a motion to go into closed executive session. Is there to discuss matters of personnel, attorney-client privilege, other matters that may be exempt from public disclosure under the Open Public Meetings Act. Minutes will be taken and released to the public if and when the need for confidentiality no longer exists, and action will be taken by the board when it reconvenes in public session. Is there a motion? Probably second. Any discussion? Roll call. Ms. Atwood. Ms. Minier.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Mrs. Reyes-Morton.
Yes.
And Mrs. Blackshear.
Yes.
Thank you. We're in closed session. About what, half an hour? We'll be about 30 to 45 minutes in closed session. We have a motion to come out of closed session made by Mrs. Reyes-Morton. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Atwood. Roll call. Ms. Atwood. Ms. Rito Bueno. I'm sorry. Ms. Minier. Mr. Muhammad.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Present.
Mrs. Reyes-Morton. And Mrs. Blackshear. We are now back in public session.
All right, I'm going to come down for the superintendent's report, and the board members will take the first couple of rows. All right, good evening, everyone. I want to begin by acknowledging that today is Juneteenth, and to acknowledge and celebrate what this day means to so many. To celebrate the emancipation of slaves on this day in 1865, and to recognize that today in America we are still in pursuit of a more perfect union. And I'll take a risk to say, in spite of some of the differences of opinions that are often shared in these board meetings over my past 5 years, one common thread is there are many, many passionate people who remain in pursuit of social justice, in pursuit of that more perfect union. All right, we get to start today by doing something that is a true honor for all of us, I know, and that is to acknowledge our valedictorians and salutatorians at our 5 high schools. Our students, as you can imagine at this time of year, are incredibly busy running around with their families and all the other activities that come with commencement. So I think only a couple of them are here with us at the board meeting. I see Cameron over there in the back. But just to go ahead and recognize, starting with Big Picture Learning Academy, the valedictorian is Gloria Perez. Is she here today? Okay. And the salutatorian who I know is here is Yasmin Trueblood. Let's give her a round of applause. All right, from Brim Medical School, someone who is constantly in my social media feed these days, Cameron Klotz. Congratulations, Cameron. And the salutatorian, Esmeralda Pena. Is she here? I don't think I saw her. All right. Camden High School, the valedictorian, Nasir Jefferson. It's their baccalaureate tonight. So he's the valedictorian, and Xavier Diaz, who's on the student board, is the salutatorian. Let's give both of them a round of applause. Creative Arts Morgan Village, valedictorian Tatiana Maxwell. Is she here? And the salutatorian, Karima Dickerson. Is she here? Let's give her a round of applause. Congratulations, Ms. Dickerson and family. Woodrow Wilson High School, Brianna Shepard is their valedictorian. Is she here? And the salutatorian is Cindy Orozco Carcache. Is she here? All right, we are going to recognize and honor the Girl Scouts, who have always been an important part of our district. And this year, the Girl Scouts expanded the number of troops in the city and gave our girls great exposure to STEM, entrepreneurship, team building, and the arts. So I certainly want to thank all the volunteers who made this experience so worthwhile for our students. And I will ask our board vice president, Felicia Reyes Morton, to come down and help honor these dedicated volunteers with certificates of appreciation from the board. So before we read the names, we'd like to invite a special volunteer, Miss Audrey Howard, up for a special honor. Is she here? Is Miss Audrey Howard here? Okay. All right, so Felicia's going to say a few words, and I'll let her take it away.
So wanted to make sure that we recognize the Girl Scout volunteers throughout the district. They've done tremendous work throughout the years to make sure that girls are involved regarding STEM, business focus, lifestyle experiences, and that we offer a comprehensive program that they're able to explore things that normally would not be offered to them in the city. And so, these volunteers commit numerous hours. I've had so much fun this year attending Mommy and Me Teas. Looking forward to summer camp, and some of the girls are being scholarshiped this summer. And so we just want to make sure that we let them know that they have our support, and to continue expanding Girl Scout troops in the city so that more girls have options to have different activities. So I'm not sure who's all here, but Ms. Sharon Barron. I'll name all out. Okay. So Maris Jimenez, Bianca Rodriguez, Monique Thomas, Chantel Holmes, Katrina Fountain, Mana Steely, Omaria Lewis, Sharon Barron, Chantel Holmes, Carla Clark, Katia Polk, Lakeisha Laws, Patricia D. Riggs, Kiana Steele, Kiara Matthews, Lisa Smalls, Tanya Wilson, who's a school district employee, Annabelle Huntley, Odessa Edmond, Ursel Belcher, Amanda Lacken, Maria Garcia, Maria Osorio, Sharon Saunders, Tracy Fodishk, Wanda Espada, Sarah Jocelyn, Denisha Warren, Lucinda Smith, Ms. Tanya Wilson, Sharon Barron.
All right, thank you again to our Girl Scout volunteers. Just want to briefly share the graduation schedule for those of you who may be curious. So 4 of our high schools will hold their ceremonies on Friday, June the 22nd, and you can see the order and the times here. And then Camden High Schools will be on Monday, June 25th at 11 o'clock. I want to give you all an important update on alternative education. So after a very lengthy planning process, the district has decided that it will take over the management and daily operations of the transitional academies and accelerated diploma programs, which means that we are amicably parting ways with Camelot. So we will be taking that in-house and operating it. That change will, I believe, bring new opportunities for students in our alternative programs, including opportunities to integrate with the main high schools and take advantage of resources like college guidance and school-based youth services. It's really important to point out here that most of the teachers, the vast majority of the teachers and support staff working in both schools will remain the same. And although there will be changes to the leadership of these programs, the staff members employed by Camelot are being welcomed and encouraged to stay in their roles, working with students, remaining with the school district. And so we've done this really in partnership with their team, and there will be very little changeover, very little turnover at the leadership, or across the board, across all kind of staffing positions. And the last thing I want to point out is that there will be very few changes to staff, and we will be hiring for additional roles to ensure students have all the guidance and support they need to thrive there. All right, we mentioned during the special budget meeting earlier this month that we would give another update at this board meeting. It's a very brief update and a very positive update. And so just to kind of give you a sense of the timeline, in March, we submitted our initial budget and we projected out what it could potentially mean to the school district if the budget stood the way we had submitted it. We also told everybody that we would continue advocating for additional resources, for additional monies from the state in the form of emergency aid. And in April, we were notified by the New Jersey Department of Education, and Governor Murphy's team was incredibly supportive during this time period, that they would allocate us an additional $8.7 million, which was incredible. It really saved the day with the budget and then some. And so we had to resubmit a final budget to be approved by the county superintendent once we received that $8.7 million of additional aid. And then we shared that final budget with the board and public in that special one-off meeting. And so really the highlight of that meeting was to inform everyone of the $8.7 million. The plurality of the $8.7 million is going into the fund balance. And I think that's really critical as a rainy day balance to be able to utilize for emergency situations. And we've mentioned this many times over now, but you think about in 2013, the budget we inherited had utilized one-time money for 3 consecutive years to plug recurring expenses. And so we walked into a $75 million shortfall before a single decision had even been made in this administration, and that was really difficult. And so here we are today with a very healthy fund balance heading into the future, and just really proud of our team, and just want to give my thanks to Katrina, Anissa, our school business administrator, and everybody who fought really hard to thoughtfully plan this budget and to advocate for these additional resources. I want to give you an update on the Cream Building. So all materials will be moved on June 27th and the 28th from the temporary location and delivered directly to each teacher's former classroom. The facilities work is approximately 90 to 95% complete when you think about both the cleanliness of the building to address the water damage, but also the preventative maintenance and investments that we committed to make, such as the work up in the attic to ensure that the piping is no longer exposed. Those were significant investments. Our insurance is covering basically the vast majority, if not all of it. We will continue to fight for capital repair budgets, given the School Development Authority, again, doesn't move at the speed of light, and we think we may have some outside-the-box solutions there. But just wanted to share we are on track to move back into the Cream Building for next school year. So on that note, we have a couple of field fundraisers at Camden High and Woodrow Wilson, which complement bigger capital plans in the form of Camden High School. Of course, it's a new building. For Woodrow Wilson, we are exploring some outside-the-box ideas to potentially float a bond through the city that would not require us to raise taxes on local residents, but instead get it subsidized at the state and kind of move around the School Development Authority to do some real work there. And so that's something that is well underway that will be shepherded by Ms. McCombs once she assumes the interim superintendent position beginning next month. Actually, I should give you all an update on that too, now that I think about that. I'll give you an update on that. So yeah, we're just pleased to now be able to launch these fundraising efforts that, again, really require greater capital repairs to happen. A fundraising effort can't solve all of your problems. We're talking millions of dollars of challenges just in the field areas alone, and yet not even thinking about the main buildings. So with Camden High School, the fundraising plan has certain tiers of giving, and so if you give at, say, the highest tier, you can potentially have your name on a scoreboard, on the bleachers, some sort of plaque. And so we've worked very diligently to ensure that those tiers make sense and they are incentives for people to contribute. We do believe we may have, or do have, I should say, one very significant donor to Camden High. We're talking well over $100,000 commitment to address the bleachers and the scoreboard. And so as those details come together, we'll be able to share them out more publicly. And Woodrow Wilson, same thing with their alumni organization. They are taking the lead on this, and we'll have a very similar plan that will be on top of some of the outside-the-box solutions that I just mentioned before. All right, I'm going to do some district updates, and then I'll give you a quick transition update to close things out. So, district highlights. I think a lot of you all saw in the Courier Post, we had this really nice event that was spearheaded by our Camden High School planning committees for the new high school reconstruction project that allowed us to open up a time capsule from 1916. So these are some pictures from the event. The time capsule is significant in size. The box inside of it is smaller than the bigger capsule itself. And unfortunately, the box had rusted away, and most of what was inside of it had deteriorated, with the exception of a few small artifacts. The one item that remained almost in mint condition was an old Camden Argus newspaper from the day the original Camden High was first opened in 1916. And so I hadn't even heard of the Camden Argus. This was pre-Courier, and the Camden Courier, I think, is what it was called at one point. And so it was just a great opportunity for the alumni and other volunteers on the Camden High Planning Committee to come together and celebrate the history of the High. Just this week, we recognized 22 remarkable graduates. This is our 5th year where we honor and celebrate students who may have not taken a linear path to get to graduation day, students who suffered setbacks in school and their personal lives, but nonetheless persevered to get to the finish line. And it was another wonderful event. And each of those students get a $1,000 a year annual scholarship that is renewed each and every year they're in college, along with a free laptop. Earlier this week Monday, we had Friday of last week. Friday of last week, we had an incredible STEAM fair. This was at Creative Arts Morgan Village. Our team can't stop talking about this and telling stories about the event and the incredible projects the kids shared. I think there was a grand prize winner given to a couple of students from Brim Medical Arts, but really, I think every kid walked away feeling as though he or she won something that day. It was just a really special event, and the theme of it was to essentially put forward a science experiment idea that can help make Camden a better place, which I think is a really cool way to frame a STEAM fair. So just huge thanks to Janelle, to really everyone on our team who helped plan it. I know Janelle had a huge hand in it, but just a big thanks to our team. There's a picture of Tanya Wilson there, who I imagine had a huge hand in it too. Let's give all of them a round of applause. College Bound Camden. So if you don't follow us on our district Facebook page and Twitter, this is a good time to do it. So the entire month of June, we're going to be celebrating every single senior that got accepted into a college university. So just by following the Facebook page, you can keep track. Lastly, boat builders. So the Yorkshire Family School boat builders, and this is led by Miss Bowen, gathered at the Cooper River Boathouse to take their, and get this is a handmade kayak that the students made on its maiden voyage. So just want to give a huge thanks to Miss Bowen, to Urban Promise, who's a partner here, and the Yorkshire staff and families for giving those students that opportunity. All right, so last thing on transition. So this will be my final board meeting. Katrina and I have met with the Commissioner of Education, and he has told us that he will work with the governor's office to move forward with an interim superintendent. All signs are positive for us, and we look forward to Ms. McCombs assuming leadership here in the district. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge this, so I just wanted to tell you all this. It has not yet been formalized. As soon as it has, we will let you all know, and from there they will initiate a national search process. How long that takes is really up to them, certainly. But we hope that it is an expeditious process. I think we would all agree that having a prolonged process wouldn't necessarily be good for the work. But I couldn't be more thrilled to be able to tell you all that sooner than later, Ms. McCombs will be our interim superintendent, and from there, look forward to following the district's progress. With that said, we're going to go back up on stage and move forward with the board meeting. So just wanted to briefly reintroduce Mr. Lester Taylor up on stage. He is a fill-in just for this meeting, in case anyone was curious. Anissa Coppin and Kim Beelan, who has been our outside counsel serving as board solicitor, and Anissa, as you all know, is our SBA. They are both out of the office today for personal reasons, and so Lester is filling in. He knows the district. He served as board solicitor for a long time. It's just for this board meeting in case anyone's curious, right? For the one of you who was curious.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. At this time, we're going to open the meeting up for the public comment portion. Please bear with me while I read the parameters. The Camden City School District welcomes the attendance and comments from all members of the public at its meetings. This public comment period is your time to be heard on the agenda items in this meeting. Each person who signed up to comment will have 3 minutes. You will be notified when your 3 minutes are up. You cannot yield your time to another person. When it is your turn to speak, please remain at the podium and address all of your comments to the board president or the superintendent. Please conduct yourself in a respectful and courteous manner. For anyone whose comments or actions either harass, intimidate, or threaten the safety of any person, we will provide you with a warning or immediately end your comment time. Also, if you curse, use vulgar language, or make personal attacks, We will provide you with a warning or end your comment time. We will not interrupt you during your 3 minutes of comments. Members of the audience should also not interrupt the speaker at the podium. If you have any questions, please ask your questions during your 3-minute period. After the public comment period is closed, the superintendent or his designee will address your questions to the extent provided by law. At this time, we have a list of speakers. I will call them in the order reflected on the list. We have 10 people who have signed up. The first speaker is Mr. Kevin Waters.
Bless you on your travels. You know what I mean? Whatever you do, you know, I never harbor anything, you know, mean or, you know, mean-spirited about anyone. So, but God bless you, and, you know, God bless your travels and your family. Okay, let me put my glasses on. Right, and good evening, everyone else. Good evening, everyone else. Good evening. Okay, this is, June 19th, we know this is called Juneteenth, right? So in 1863, the de facto end to slavery as a practice did not end until 1865. Now I'm doing this to sort of cite some examples about what's been going on in the district in the way of marginalized human experience. Slavery lasted 246 years. America has only been a country for 238. Now that just behooves the arrogance of a society relegating bondage to an entitled mindset. Now let's go over some other examples of being marginalized, because this district and some of its efforts to make change have been a part of. Apartheid is a policy of or a system of segregation or discrimination on the grounds of race. The implication flows along the lines of one being narrow-minded, behaving in an unfair manner, inequity, one-sidedness, racialism, meaning this is only happening in the Afro-American and Hispanic community. Gentrification in the urban cities is the process of renovation and improving a house or a school district so it will conform to a more white middle-class standards. Jim Crow laws. These were state and local laws that enforced compliance, upheld by assembly members or any elected official in bed with a political or politic agenda to disenfranchise the descendant of an enslaved Afro-American who, as a parent, was supposed to be in a school district with school choice. Now, all the aforementioned descriptions of being marginalized involve a segregationist mindset or a white supremacist, elitist, better than you ideology are attributed to the Camden Charter Network and Camden enrollment. When I was young in my neighborhood growing up, schools were open-ended. You move in the community, you enroll your child in that school, the process was simple. This was not coerced, but free will. Today, our elected community representatives have bowed down to another white supremacist directive. Camden does not need, first of all, a charter network, let alone a legislated enrollment system. Let alone a legislated enrollment system, which you all are capricious in supporting. The parent, if the building up of the downtown Camden land grab needs students, then a parent should be able to freely choose their school. After all, Juneteenth today embodies a free-thinking lifestyle, so I might have another minute or so.
Mr. Waters,
but
your time is up, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Hotep.
Thank you. To the members of the public who signed up to speak, please accept my apology in advance if I mispronounce your name. Our next speaker is Keith Benson. Believe this?
Good evening, neighbors and residents and board members. to touch on a little bit what Brother Waters just said, and I might go over 3 minutes, just a heads up. Yesterday, in the Senate Budget Appropriations Committee, they rammed through a bill, even though around 50 residents and community groups, and about 75 LEAP students and parents went up there to oppose this bill. This bill was to make Camden enrollment the law of every Camden parent, and only Camden parents. So every student, whether you go to a public, a charter, or a Renaissance school, has to use this Camden enrollment system. Now, some of you guys might not be familiar with how problematic this is, but I will tell you. Camden Enrollment is a third-party organization that's funded by the organizations that invest money in Renaissance schools. So the money that's funding Camden Enrollment are the same people who are funding the proliferation of Mastery, KIP, and Uncommon. Guess who here brought Camden Enrollment to this district? This guy. Millions of dollars are coming in to Camden to grow these Renaissance schools. That means there are investors that are investing in the growth of these schools. They don't have the numbers. Contracts has already been signed. So how do you justify the growth of these charter schools, these Renaissance schools, if the kids aren't there? Our enrollment in the Camden public school system is growing, which is the reason why I have to try to find a way to force kids into these schools. Board members, I don't know if you guys are aware of how corrupt the system is, but it's very, very corrupt, and we have to separate ourselves from it. Camden parents, I'm glad this stuff is getting recorded. Do not use Camden enrollment. They will manipulate your kid to go into these Renaissance schools. How do I know this? Because it's been happening. It's been happening for the last 2 years. Don't do it. They'll move your kids over into that system, to those schools, whether you want to or not. Now, what really excited me was this is your last board meeting. For the last year, I've been trying to get you fired. And I want it to be a situation where, because when you came down here, you were pretty unknown. I want it to be a situation where somebody Googles your name and they see all the horrific things you've been doing down here. How many lives you have ruined. When I think about the things you may have built, I actually live in Parkside, so I ride by Camden High, and I see nothing but destruction, and I think that's synonymous and metaphoric to your time here. I believe...
Excuse me, Mr. Benson, thank you for your comments. Your time is up. So, sir, with all due respect...
No. I'm going to tell you right now, Brother Taylor.
Sir,
I am not taking this microphone until I'm done.
Sir, there's a police officer in the back of the room.
Trust me, he's going to have to do what he has to do. Let me get this out. I've been waiting for 5 years.
Sir, you've had your 3 minutes. The rules were established at the beginning of the comment period. Thank you, sir.
Where you at? Hold on. For 5 years.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Sir, excuse me, 1 second. We're trying to conduct an orderly meeting.
For 5 years.
Pursuant to the direction from the board president, we're going to give you 1 additional minute, which equals 60 seconds. Thank you, sir. All right?
For 5 years, Mr. Rahanafard, take responsibility for what you've done. For 5 years, you oppressed and crippled this district. And the people here are the ones that are left to put it back together again. The facade that you've created, that the people who back you, your Chiefs for Change, your Bahara Institutes, all your Broad Institutes, all those sorts of folks who benefit from your being here, we are left to rebuild it. Your legacy is horrible. And, which is a good thing, fortunately, my dissertation is actually out there, and there's a whole section on you. So anybody who Googles your name will see how horrible you have been.
Before we call our next speaker, I just want to remind the members of the public that the rules and procedure for the public comment period as established by board policy limits each speaker's time to 3 minutes. That is in accordance with the law. We would respectfully ask all speakers to govern themselves accordingly to the 3-minute comment period. The Sunshine Law simply says that a portion of every meeting shall be set aside for public comment. It does not set forth the amount of time. Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Gary Frazier. Is Mr. Frazier here?
Good evening, all. So I know it's been a while since you've seen me at any of these board meetings, and that's been primarily for the work that I've been doing in our district and also across the state. However, I want to piggyback off of what Keith said yesterday in reading the legislation behind that bill 2722. It just seems like to me that the windows are being closed to our residents. And when you do take a look at the one enrollment plan, it's like something that's being forced by the state. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. Did you guys take the time? Are you guys aware of this bill that's being pushed in the state? As would be a question I would want a response from the board members here. It was supposed to represent our traditional public schools. And it is a very serious thing, because what I see happening is that you look at the clauses that are inside it, you read the bill and the fine print of the bill, it goes into the specifics about sort of like handing a bone to some of our teachers who have been in the district for a number of years if they were to participate in such an enrollment. But to make it mandatory for our children, you know, the same things that are going on, was it made mandatory for our children to get transportation into our city, and that during that 2.5 radius, they're not even in? You know, why isn't this board advocating for that to happen, to ensure that our children are getting to school? You know, it's just becoming to me that, you know, the continuous accident bowing down to this oligarchic system that we have, with this establishment of this Democratic Party, it seems to be that there's a decision that a group of our people are going to be forced to live in a certain type of conditions. Yet you guys say that you are progressives. You guys say that you represent progressively us people who come from these diminished communities. But yet the laws that are being enacted are more so constructed as invisible chains on not only our children, but our community as whole. So when you say that you are doing things that are supposed to help uplift our children in the city of Camden, this is a sure example of work that is being done by a higher power to ensure that these matters are carried out. I understand that $5 million was spent for Sweeney to be defeated, and it was unsuccessful. But you can send a message to the political mob boss that, you know, for him to take that out on our traditional public schools as a result of some union busting that was really what's happening right now, I find it absurd. And so I'm sending y'all a clear message to our district. Paymon, all the work you've done here, Keith already expressed how he felt about it. I'm not going to say that in the works that I was able to find a median on with you in terms of trying to save some of our schools, I'm good with that. But in terms of our children, we are the ones who have to take forward for our children. Yeah, I just need about 60 more seconds, man. That's about it, man. This is his last thing, man. And you only filling in today, sir. And I appreciate that, sir. But please, let me.
With all due respect, the time was set forth for 3 minutes.
Yeah, all right. But if you guys were really adhering to the Sunshine Law and the meeting was really put out within a 48, excuse me, hold on. If the meeting was really put out in a 48 notice, then you would have also allowed it for time. If someone wanted to sign up for 5 minutes to speak, that they would have been able to speak. So 60 more seconds of this, you guys aren't following your own policies. So I think I deserve, for all the work that I have done in this district in the last 2 years, I think I should be given that amount of time to be able to address my grievances before this board who will take over.
You could, Mr. Frazier. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So in conclusion, what I would say to the folks who are moving forward, to those who will take over, who will fill the spots of the damage that we will have to pick up. Ultimately, with this being passed, are you guys even thinking that this could affect you too? I don't think everybody's looking at the impact of it. It's either that you're not looking at the impact of it or you don't care. Either way, we as parents, we care. These are our children that are coming behind, and your job is to advocate on behalf of our children for the betterment of them. I want to see air conditioners put in our schools where we don't have them, where it's very hot for our children. My son today, I had to go to my son's school today. I don't care if it's one of my community schools or not. I don't give a damn. If I walk in a building and I'm pouring down sweat,
Mr. Mr.
And then
Frazier,
I have to
you got your
remove
extra
my
minute,
son
sir.
out of that
Mr.
school
Frazier, you got your
because
extra
his
minute. Thank you so
oxygen
much.
level is
All right, the
this
next
low.
speaker is
And yet we're
Ronsha
talking
Dickerson.
about we have
Will Ronsha Dickerson please approach the microphone? Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Have a good evening, sir.
no reason why we don't have
Is Ronsha Dickerson available? Present? Thank you. Remind everyone to please comply with the 3-minute regulation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Ronsha Dickerson. How are you? Good evening. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm concerned about Black teacher retention and recruitment. I'm very concerned about Black administration leadership that's going to be effective. And I'm also concerned about Black children having consistency in their schools. Is there any advisory board member who's willing to volunteer and work with us to make sure this happens? I'm putting it out there now because I want to ask these questions. It's very important to me. I need to see advisory board members come out to these schools, you divide them up, and come work with us, okay? I think that's very important to say that right now. So I'm asking that question, you can answer it at the end. I also am very concerned with the racist zero tolerance policies that are in the school district. We have a really high suspension rate that you guys are not really addressing, and a kick-out issue that's happening in the school. We got babies being suspended in 3rd grade for defending themselves, and I have a problem with that. And you don't know about it, but I know about it because I get phone calls and it hurts because I'm seeing Black boys crying saying, Mama Ronsha, I was defending myself and they kicked me out of school because of their zero tolerance policies. We need to address these issues because that right there is creating a school to prison pipeline. You're preparing our children to think of these issues right now and think that every time they defend themselves, they're going to be hurt, they're going to be detained, they're going to be put into a discipline issue. I have a big problem with that. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the topic of the day, the drug kingpins, Uncommon, Mastery, and Kit. So we got these drug kingpins. You look at the drug sets, and Camden's poor and violent. We're going to talk about drugs right now. Uncommon got Whitman Park, that's their set. And they got Centerville, Mastery got North Camden, and Kit got downtown. That's their drug sets. And now they're bullying us with Camden enrollment because they try to say that we need a little drug set people to kind of pull in more people to get the drugs out there into the streets. And then the Renaissance schools are like the drug houses. So we got to look at it that way and look at how you guys look like drug kingpins. It's like a drug set in Camden. Everybody's taking on different sets, and we're bullying the small Renaissance are bullying charter schools like, oh, Camden Community Charter School, we want your set. We taking your school. Oh, Pine Point, we want your set. We taking your school. That's what's happening in the city. It looks horrible. It's a very bad look. You can laugh at it later, but if you look at it and what it's worth, it is just that. We are looking like fools. And I'm trying to tell you, the universal enrollment does not work. It didn't work in New Orleans, it didn't work in Newark, and it's not going to work here. People, please read the bill and understand what's happening. Our people need an opportunity to have democracy in this city. For too long, there has been not one voice that has supported the people, not in county freeholders, not in council, nowhere, and we have no voice here. I want you all to, I'm talking to the advisory board today, our board president, and our interim superintendent. I need you all to follow us and find out why we feel the way we feel and see what you can do to support our call to action and what we need in our city. We all know that these are our babies. We're not having a charter school, Renaissance school, public school parent fight. I refuse to let that happen on my watch. But what we will have is some accountability. We will have some Black and brown representation in the right. We will have vigorous and rich leadership that cares about our city. We need that in the city. We will not be beholden to another person from the state that will send anyone down here who think they can turn our city over like this. I need all of you to get up off your behinds and follow us and find out why we feel the way we feel. It's not because we just don't like y'all. It's because no one's fighting with us. Why would everyone keep saying the same thing? It's like, I'm not getting paid. I don't get paid for this. I'm just a parent. At the end of the day, I'm a mom. I gotta go home and cook dinner. I'm a mama of 6 and 6,000 more, and I won't stop until every child receives the respect that they deserve in the city. This is our city. And if you live here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I see you, brother. You ain't got to say it.
You
I
already
got
have
you.
4 minutes. You already,
I got you. I got my extra 6. You didn't even cut me off.
I gave you an extra minute. Thank
I
you so much.
appreciate you. Thank you.
You have a
Thank you so
wonderful
much.
Our next speaker is Vita Neal.
Bye.
Vida, excuse me. I apologize in advance. I apologize again. You're welcome, man. Thank you.
Okay, first I would like to say to the board members, to Katrina McCombs, congratulations. To the board president here, congratulations, work for our children. To Mr. Rohanford. When I first met you, Mr. Rohanford, my niece came to my house and she was soaking wet. And I said to that baby, what are you playing with, little boys? And she said, no, Auntie, my school doesn't have any air. Her clothes from head to toe were soaking wet. That stayed with me the whole night. See, I was a single parent of 4 children and all the kids at the house, and I ain't got no reason to go into a school. But what brought me into that school was what I seen with my niece. And I snuck into that school and made the only co-location video that the state has. That's when you got a public and a charter school in the same building. And what I seen in that building, I knew you was a force to reckon with. Anybody that can be cool enough to go in and to renovate the 3rd floor of Bonzo and give central air conditioners and technology, and the children downstairs, the walls ain't been painted in 30 years. The same toilets and bathrooms where my children went to Bonzo school was still in there. That's a problem. Brown versus the Board of Education says you can educate our children separately, but you must treat them equal. And this is not happening under your watch, son. You know, all night long I've been pondering about what I was going to say to you. Because me and you talk on the phone. I just had a teacher tell me today, I seen you eating with Paymon at the Legacy Diner. But you gotta know what I'm doing when you see me with Paymon. Because anytime you see me with Paymon, I want something for my kids. And that day at the Legacy Diner, Paymon had turned down Maika Arla, who had tickets to the Black Museum. 3 times he turned it down. This girl got free tickets. And under the Amistad law, you are supposed to teach our children Black history. So I railroaded him, coerced him, into coming to the diner and had her there so that our children can go to the museum. And they did go. If it takes one person, one day, at a time to get things done, then that's how it's going to have to get done. But things have to change. So I'm calling this today, put the trash out. Because when you leave, we're going to put the trash out. All that you brought in here with you, your FOCs, your operational officers, they got to go. They weren't nothing but data collectors. Collected the data for the Renaissance schools. They were not here to engage the parents. That you have locked the parents in the community out of the schools. There is no parental involvement in no schools in the district. You got the security guards like pit bulls, the operation officers and the FOCs. Every time I go to a school, before I get my hand on the door, Miss Perry's calling me. Miss Riley, you at Yorkshire? Well, how did you know that? And I'm going to tell you how stupid all y'all is. You actually think that I'm at all these schools? No, it's the staff that sends me the information, the dirt, and the pictures on you. Because they cannot sit around and watch children be abused. That's the staff. I got snitches all over. You can change all your staff, but every September, I'm going to make sure some snitches get through. Because I need to know that my babies is all right. So when Airmark is feeding them slop, yeah, the same people hiding, feeding the slop, is taking the pictures. You fed our kids rat feces this year. Rat feces and food. Oh, I know it's true.
Excuse me, Ms. Neal, you're at 4
I know
minutes.
it's, excuse me.
You're at 4 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I'm supposed to get 5.
No, you're not.
I'm supposed to get 5.
Our next speaker is
Well, guess what? The next speaker, you can cut the microphone off. Everybody knows what I do. And if you put me out, I've been put out the governor's house and a Christmas party. So getting put out of here ain't nothing. I will get put out for these kids. You individuals up here, your ethics need to be charged, especially when you represent a charter school network.
Reyes Morton. You don't even have
Ms.
kids in
Bronte,
public schools
please
or in charter.
respectful.
They go to Catholic
Ms. Field, your
school.
time is
You
up.
should
Please
not
have a seat.
be sitting on
Ms.
our
Field,
floor.
please have a
And
seat.
you are my target
Please
for
have a
this
seat
year.
and stop interrupting the meeting. Thank you, ma'am.
I'm gonna get you up out of here. Oh, bye, Claiborne.
And just for the record, we have been giving people 4 minutes, and so we're asking them that when we ask to wrap up, please wrap up. Thank you, Ms. Ferrante.
Thank you. Good evening. I came to this board meeting with mixed emotions today. I came here angry, bitter, disappointed, happy, and sad, all wrapped up into one big emotional roller coaster. I'm a passionate leader. For now, I will speak of the new beginnings where Camden truly has a chance to transform and morph into something great. My vision for the Camden children is for the community, school-based staff, and administrators all to work together for the Camden children to succeed educationally, but also in life. I want the staff and the students to be in a safe school environment. I want the students to eat healthy, decently portioned meals. I want to see redemption not utilized against individuals that speak up for our children. I want to see all members of the community to be afforded the same opportunities that only a select few have been privy to these past 5 years. I want to see that the Camden students have the same opportunities that the students in the suburbs, in the charters, and in the Renaissance schools have today. I want our Camden students to be able to participate in the arts and music throughout this district in every grade level in each school. Happens at my kid's school. I want the community to unite with the entire community as a whole and stop this constant division that surrounds us in Camden. I want to see this community rise up against oppression, racism, and discrimination. I want the teachers to be afforded the opportunity to be able to teach activism because it is needed in our urban communities now more than ever before, and they need to know how to exercise their rights within the law. I want to see science and social studies back in the elementary curriculum more than the current allotment because it's needed for their future careers in government, technology, etc. I want to see our children rejoice in attending school on a regular basis because it's fun and educational, and not geared towards a test because I want the best curriculum method that coincides with our children's development. I want to stop testing our children so much that they are truly burned out by the middle of the year. I want to see our children receive mental health services because it's greatly needed for the students. I want to see a unified force throughout this city so that Camden is a positive reflection of our hard work and determination to the politicians. So yesterday I attended the State Budget and Appropriations Committee. I was appalled at the lack of respect that was given to our Camden community speakers. You see, there was a bill passed today, in fact, that threatens this entire traditional public school district. The bill is designed to expand the urban campus area for Renaissance schools. Camden is small, only 9 square miles, in fact, so this bill actually encompasses the entire city, which means that the Renaissance school will in effect be able to take over the traditional public school district and the mom and pop charter schools such as Leap and Echo. So I'm confused. If Mr. Rahonford's entire plate for the last 5 years was about choice, what happened? Because this bill clearly takes choice out of the parents' option for their child's education. So Mr. Rahonford, what was the point of this bill? Why are you now changing your viewpoint for Camden now as you exit this district with only a few days left? I believe the Camden parents and community deserve to know your intentions and reasons for this bill. If I'm portraying you in the wrong light, then by all means, please prove me wrong and make a phone call to the governor to veto this bill as superintendent before your final farewell. In addition, please do not redirect this question to Ms. McCombs either. On a personal note, I have been waiting for this district to fill out a form for my employment verification for my supervisory certification through the state. I was told that it would only take 5 business days. I submitted the form on June 4th. It has been 11 business days and I still have not received the completed form. Why is the district's central office staff holding up this form for me in obtaining my certification? When will this form be completed? Why is it taking so long? Who should I speak with on this matter moving forward? On another matter, I see the chief of staff has resigned. Now that her position is officially on the board minutes, when will the chief of staff position be posted as a vacancy for individuals to apply for this position?
Excuse me, ma'am. Your
So
time is
I
up.
only have
Thank
like literally 60 seconds, not even.
we already gave you an extra 60 seconds. You already have 4 minutes. Then you'll get 5 and everybody else will get points. So if you can please.
Could I just have a couple
give you 10
seconds to
seconds.
wrap
Yeah,
up? Thank
couple
you.
seconds.
So I will end this speech on a positive note and say it is time for a new era to begin, and I'm looking forward to the future. I just hope that we are given the opportunity to expand our horizons within this school district and we are not handcuffed by the previous administration through laws and government regulations. I truly believe that with the right leadership in place, that we have a chance to make the Camden School District an even more successful learning environment for our children. Thank you for your time. Thanks again.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to skip Sean Brown. I'm sorry, Mr. Brown. Go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Madam President, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Solicitor, there was a time that I got so caught up in policy, outcomes, and change that I forgot that the reality of making change happen is more so rooted in personality, tone, and relationships, which is something that Mr. Taylor, on many long conversations at night, told me. Paymon, I'm talking to you directly, Paymon. There are people that will remember you for your mistakes, your sins, and your ideas that are contrary to their own. I think you just heard from a few folks. But I want you to know that I see your strengths, I see the good ideas that you have, and the willingness to admit mistakes, and most importantly, the passion that you have for our students in the district. I'm limited in power. I'm a parent, I'm a resident, I come to board meetings, but I have no formal powers. So that means I have to use the very limited power that I have to have the right relationships and to have the right tone in order to do whatever I think is best for students and for the district. But the only way that really works is by having a person on the other side that has the power, that's in a position and a willingness to listen. Whether it's admitting mistakes, or personnel changes, or organizational chart changes, or doing things like changing or big policy changes. We saw tonight, I'm not sure if I clapped, that Camelot will be transitioning out and the district will take over the role of running alternative school programs. As Ms. Blackshear may remember, this is kind of something I said from the beginning. So we see that, and by the way, that wasn't my idea for Camelot to be out, although I may have said it before, but we see that leaders can push something on 1 month, and then after review of data and looking at the ins and outs of it, realize that maybe it's better to go in a different direction. And I think that it's really easy to criticize maybe what we consider to be the bad things that happen, but I don't hear a lot of folks as willing to say that changes occurred, improvement has happened. And is it perfect? Is politics involved? Absolutely. But with the limited power that we have, I think it makes sense for us as a community, especially for those that work directly with students, to realize this. And speaking of students, when I go through, I have a lot of family in this city, I have a lot of neighbors. When I talk to young people about what's going on with education, either they are completely apathetic to what happens in a political or top leadership position, or for several high school students that I know, I hear the very opposite of, I know my superintendent. I know Paymon because he's been to my school and he's talked to me and he's listened to what it is that I have to say. And I know that might not sound remarkable to some people, but that doesn't happen in most school districts. It doesn't. So with that said, I want to say that I really do echo a lot of what I heard earlier in terms of where we have opportunities to change. And unfortunately, in Paymon's last meeting, we see that politics has brought its ugly head back into Camden education. And what I've said I said this in my farewell speech, and I'll say it again. If politics is going to be in the Camden School District, it needs to be a force for good, not a force of separation, of shrinkage, of dividing, and doing things that aren't based on the best interests of students, but based off of what's in the politically expedient for people who are in power that are outside of this district. It's not right for Katrina as hopefully our incoming superintendent, and it's not in the best interest of our students. So with that said, Paymon, the rest of the compliments and complaints that I have, I'll save for the pub, and I'll tell you over drinks, your treat. But I do want to say publicly that I've been dealing with public officials for a long time, and I can't say this about anybody else, that I'm so glad that Paymon has been a friend. I wish you well and success. I don't mind that I'll get flack for saying this, but it's true, and I think I have a responsibility to say it out loud. But obviously, we still have a lot of work to do as a community, as a district. And what I do ask that we do is, I'm almost finished, Lester. What I do ask that what we do is listen to what the folks said earlier about what happened in Trenton yesterday and realize that there's no way that we can really justify that as being good. And all of us have to work on making sure this district stays whole.
Thank you. Lorraine Miller?
Good evening. It's a wonderful opportunity once again to speak with you with my thoughts and engage in some type of response later. Yesterday, I too went to Trenton, and I was absolutely appalled by the Senate. Yes, they have given us the decency to speak, to hear us. I am not a person to bring up race issues. However, it exists. It has devastated me since last night, and I intend to fight for the rights of our people in Camden City. It was a disgrace. I would also like to make sure the school district provides training in this area. It is absolutely necessary to combat this. I would like to see, and I've said it in the past, that committees be formed to empower people in the community and the staff and the board to work together for our children. That's the only way we're going to turn this around. We've got to stop the fighting and start working together. I also spoke about the enrollment. We need to have a watchdog situation. If they're going to insist on this by law until we can get it changed, we need to make sure all representatives are on a committee, from Renaissance, mom and pop, traditional public, and just an oversight to make sure it's fair and equitable. Because from what I have heard, it is not, and it has got to change. We can all do our part too, to call and to cyber lobby. That's what I've been doing since last night, and I intend to follow through, because this is a complete disaster. I also brought up the fact that maybe we need to call in a federal investigation of this district to find out if everything's up and right, great. But I'm hearing other issues, and I am very concerned. So I would like full transparency and making sure that we are okay, because that's the only way to go in a positive direction. I have to go back to the song by Michael Jackson, "We Are the World," and believe me, I am an advocate for children. I am an advocate for people. We are all good people. We've got to get it lined up properly. We need to establish the democratic principles right here in this city on this Board of Education. That is a big start. And we have to stop the bullying from the political machine. It's just not right. I've heard it, I've seen it, I saw what happened yesterday. The senators had gone out of the room and they had already put a piece of paper down there saying their vote, and they didn't even hear the testimony. And the people that were in there, when the people came and got up to speak, they were talking, walking around. It was a complete freak show. I never would have had that in my classroom. I have never experienced in my life, and we have regressed back past to, I guess we're in the 50s again. So please, we all need to put this in a positive light. to go and make a difference in this world, because the devil's on their side. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Our last speaker who signed up is Mr. Kevin Barfield.
Individual who came in when the Urban Hope Act came and actually had tried to get the board to sign on a blank check. And now, as we see, this is like the third amendment to the bill. So it's ironic that you came back to the scene of crime after the disgrace that we had assembled, we experienced at the Senate and Budget Committee yesterday. Yes, I was there. And again, it was a complete embarrassment and totally disrespect for those who came and tried to speak out on behalf on. People are here in the community who know and see what's actually happening and going on in reference to Camden enrollment, and even with the Renaissance schools, charter schools, that we know that that's not, that's not, the only one-stop, fits-all type system. But I just wanted to say this. At the beginning, again, Superintendent, when you first came in, we heard this, this story about your upbringings and, the hardship on your family coming in here. You did the 100-day listening tour, and again, like I said before, had the hope, believe, and as I said before, I know you had some things that you had to do, according to the strategic plan. I know that. But then again, it was just a lot of things that, again, our children, again, have suffered through this transition of education reform. I do know and understand, too, that, and not understanding that the fact that a Senate Budget and Appropriate Committee can actually legislate and make parents do something that parents didn't even have a chance to vote on and say that we want this. But then I do also know that according to the agreement that was signed on when you first came on, that Mastery, KIP, and Uncommon was supposed to have at least 9,000 student enrollment and at least 60% of our student population. And we only have about 44,000. I do have enough sense to know that because of the bonds that these individual Renaissance and charter schools have gotten, that they have to pay those bonds back. So what happens is, if you know and you understand what really took place, our children are used as cattle to pay back bonds. You cannot keep these charter schools open if no children are in there. That's the reality of it. So it's a couple pieces that's going on that's going to set the stage in reference to what I see, the fact that if you having 3 private equity companies that's going to actually facilitate education within our system, that means that all these individual employees in the district, that means they're going to come in here and they're going to make you reapply like you saying that Camelot has to do. And by the way, with Camelot made your statistics look good in reference to the graduation rate. That's a fact. So you got those 3 entities that now get to control who works in these buildings. They get now, what does that look like in reference to how does the Board of Education actually, what is their role now? So I see us not having an advisory board, because now you have to fit the model, because again, all of them have their boards, they have their separate meetings. So how does this come together as a unit if we're going to be considered a school district? And then we're talking about policies. There's no universal policies, which publication gives us. The other part about this, which is really discerning, is that it takes our rights as parents to have a voice and to be part of and be at the table through the public laws.
Your time is up. Could you please
And
wrap it
again,
up briefly? Thank you, sir.
sir, again,
I don't even want to get into the political part in reference to the role that you played in this.
Sir, are you going to wrap it up? You have 4
No,
minutes.
I'm not going to wrap it up
Okay.
because I still have some things I want to say.
Okay, sir, you had 4
According
minutes.
to what took
So
place
can you please have a
yesterday,
seat? Thank you, sir.
that we have
Can you please have a seat and not
public-
disrupt the
public schools
conduct of this meeting, sir?
and public
I'm going to ask you a
funding is
third
gonna
time. Mr.
actually
Barfield,
go-
can you
is
please
gonna
have a
support
seat and not disrupt the orderly
public
operation of this board
and
meeting?
charter schools.
Mr. Barfield, you're speaking for 4 minutes and 35 seconds.
again,
Can you please have a seat and not disrupt the orderly operation of this board meeting? I'm going to ask you one more time, sir. Will you please have a seat so that you will not be found to have disrupting this meeting? Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments, sir.
Situation. So we know that we have issues.
Thank you, Mr. Barfield.
You left us in the hole.
Thank you.
So we know that it's again, if people leaving now, it's because of the fact that they gotta leave.
All right, I think I'm going to appropriately ask Ms. McCombs to respond to some of the specific questions that were raised. I will address the one item that I was vetoed by Ms. Ferrante from handing over to Ms. McCombs, and that is the question about the bill. So Ms. Ferrante, let me just say this. I'm not a lawmaker. I'm not a political strategist. If you think I am the tail wagging the dog, then I'm going to take you out for a cheesesteak at Dunkies to walk you through the way Camden's unique form of political sausage is created. I was aware of the last bill. This bill, I heard some rumblings about it. I literally didn't know the specifics of the bill until basically around the same time everyone else did. And so it was a very different bill, not a very different bill, but a fairly different bill than the one that came about when there was that snowstorm. There were kind of different items being discussed in that version than this version. There are 3 things in this bill, just since there was so much talk about it. I have read it. I do know about it. I've been in part of conversations about it. So there are 3 things in this bill. There is a proposal to have Renaissance school teachers be part of the state pension system, which I don't think anyone disagrees with. At least I'd be surprised if anyone disagrees with, because I do believe that was the original intent of the Urban Hope Act. Charter teachers have access to the state pension system. Teachers having access to a more secure future in general, I think, is a good thing. The second component is very technical, and as far as I can understand, is being understandably misunderstood. And even those who do understand it, if, they have a different point of view on it, and I can respect that. That technical provision is that the radius by which a Renaissance school can create a new school is 1.5 miles around the home school of an Urban Hope Act campus, so KIPP on Common Mastery. That's a K-8 school. A high school, it's a 2-mile radius. So what the bill is proposing is that radius, instead of being drawn around the first school, you can move the radius around one of the other existing schools. I honestly don't think it changes anything. And if that gets vetoed, I honestly don't think it changes anything, whether it goes through or it gets vetoed. It's a very, very marginal flexibility it affords a Renaissance school in terms of where their new school is located. So whether you draw that radius around the first school or the third school, it's still a 1.5 or a 2-mile radius. They're not increasing the radius. All right? The third and final item that's in the bill is about Camden enrollment, which clearly we heard a lot about. And I think on Camden enrollment, I'm not going to get into the specifics. I think there we have an honest disagreement about what Camden enrollment is here to do and the benefits or lack thereof it affords the community. My position on Camden enrollment has been clear from the very beginning. And in terms of the very specific concern that was voiced numerous times over about how Camden enrollment, quote unquote, funnels kids to Renaissance schools, I want to just tell everyone who doesn't have a formed opinion on this, because what I'm about to say won't affect those who have a formed opinion. But for those of you that don't have a formed opinion, I want to remind everyone, you can enroll your student into a traditional public school by simply walking in the door and matriculating your kid. You don't have to go through Camden enrollment. And that's a provision that we created to address the very concerns that have been brought to our attention. You don't have to go through Camden enrollment. You can walk into a school and enroll your child. And that is us showing respect to the concerns that we have heard. Camden enrollment is about equitable access to schools. That's all it is.
Why are they making it mandatory? Why is it being made mandatory?
I'm just going to wait for you guys to finish, and then I'll respond. Keep going.
No, we just want to know why is it mandatory? That's the question. Why is it mandatory? Then if we can simply walk our children into any traditional school and register our children, then why is the bill being put forth right now to mandate it?
Anyone else want to throw something in there
I would like to add a comment.
before I respond?
If you are on that side, if you are for the veto by Murphy, if that's what I just heard correctly, then I want you to personally call Governor Murphy and tell him that as our superintendent before you walk out here on Friday.
Exactly.
If you are truly on our side,
Exactly.
and your heart is with these children,
That's right.
please call the governor and tell him that you are against this law. You oppose it because of the area. That's all I'm asking. And I'm done.
As it relates to the radius issue, I am more than happy to do that. I've been saying that from the very beginning. I don't even know what this accomplishes. I've been on the record with our legislators as to, I don't really know what this does, to be perfectly honest with you guys. Sure, that's not a problem. I've already been doing it. On the pension matter, I think that's a good thing, and I think it's inconsequential to the traditional public schools. And on Camden enrollment, I think we have an honest disagreement. So Gary, to your question, I do believe that when you have 17 different applications, which was what was the case before Camden enrollment, that span 9 different monthly deadlines. So LEAP has their lottery, I think, in October, at a time during the school year when most parents aren't thinking about next year's enrollment. So think about like families in October. It's the second month of the school year. Very few families in Camden are realizing that you have a deadline in October to secure a seat at a school for 11 months later, right? Most families don't know that. Some do and participate in LEAP system, others don't. Other schools have a deadline in November, some in December, some in January, some in February, some in March. It spanned 9 months. That was the prior system. All we've done is make one deadline and one application. And given the other concerns we've heard, we've tried to meet our community where they are and address their concerns. So if you so distrust Camden enrollment, you so distrust a simple system that, by the way, the medical school residency matching program uses the exact same system, then you don't have to use it. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to pass it over to Ms. McCombs. I literally just said we're not forcing students. That's it, Dr. Benson.
The FOCs in Sharp are calling down the students to fill out Camden enrollment. They're already in the building. These are factual things. Right now, I don't know if you don't know that these things are happening or that you're lying. But one of those two things are happening. And they're forcing people to do it.
Is this more
Choose to
so?
acknowledge it or not.
Is this more so of an enforcement because LEAP opts not to participate in the one enrollment? So is this more so geared towards LEAP Academy and then it's being something that's being mandated on our district because they choose not to work with this one enrollment? Why are they exempt from it? Why are they exempt
Gary,
from it?
Gary, we should just let's grab a few minutes. Let's grab a few minutes after the meeting. I can't speak for the intent of the lawmakers. And last thing I'll say, going against the advice of counsel here, I don't really understand how these bills kind of come out out of left field like that. That wouldn't be my approach if I were a lawmaker. So in that, I certainly sympathize with those of you who are caught off guard by it. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I also will say I don't think that's necessarily new, right? Like that's been happening, and it seems to work for some people here. But I hear you guys on that. But hey, that's not new to South Jersey.
One day.
Members of the public, please, the public comment period is over. I believe the superintendent has delegated the response to his deputy superintendent. Thank you.
They're shutting off grades at Wiggins. They're saying there's no more fourth grade openings. And the principals at Wiggins, the teachers at Wiggins are saying, we have openings, but they're saying that they can't register for them. The system is corrupt. And some folks up there may know it, some folks may not.
But the truth has to come out. And if some of you sit there saying that it's an objective system and everything's fine, that's a lie.
Like, we finished. That's just the truth.
So since the public comment portion of the meeting is over, the board has before you the agenda package with the superintendent's resolutions as well as the business office agendas. Are there any comments or questions about the agenda?
Can't hear you, Felicia. Can't hear.
Presentation.
Turn your mic on.
Can you relax? Like seriously, it's 7 p.m. Calm down. Gosh. There's 2 resolutions on the report. One is for the audit and another one is adopting the audit findings. So was this a presentation that we received a couple months ago or is this a presentation we should be receiving soon?
You received it.
Okay, thanks.
In accordance with the powers vested in the State District Superintendent under Title 18A, I hereby approve today's superintendent's agenda items and business office agenda items.
If you want to, we can have Ms. McComb answer the questions that were put out for the public portion.
No offense, but that's what y'all do all the time. Round tables and sidebars.
Can we
How about we all
please
right here?
stop disrupting the meeting? Thank you.
Are you a corporate lawyer? Because if you are, you shouldn't be sitting there.
Can we please stop disrupting the meeting? Thank you. And per the request of the board chair, if the meeting continually gets disrupted, the meeting will be adjourned since the business has already been transacted. Thank you. Madam Chair, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Atwood, second by Tyson.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. Roll call. Ms. Atwood? Ms. Minier?
Yes.
Mr. Muhammad?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes-Morton? Mrs. Blackshear? Thank you. Meeting adjourned at 7:22 p.m.